Welcome to the podcast, People More Interesting Than Me. I'm your host, Michael Strumsky. This week, we're honored to have Ronni Ocampo as our guest. Ronni is a trailblazing woman who has made her mark in the male-dominated field of wildland firefighting. With years of experience under her belt, Ronni has proven that women can not only hold their own in this physically demanding profession, but also excel at it. As a wildland firefighter, Ronni has faced some of the toughest challenges nature can throw her way, including blazing heat, raging flames, and treacherous terrain. In this episode, Ronni will share with us her inspiring journey, from her early days as a rookie to her current role as a seasoned veteran and mentor to aspiring women firefighters. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we delve into the world of wildland firefighting with the one and only Ronni Ocampo. Enjoy. Where are you actually, geographically?
I'm in Colorado Springs.
Okay. Oh, I love Colorado Springs.
But yeah, no, it's nice here. I've been here for 10 years, which is really rare. Not rare, but it's kind of crazy.
Do you usually move around?
Yes. Typically being in the military, it's every at least 4 years.
Okay. But obviously you do your firefighting stuff, because from my research, obviously, I don't even know why I didn't think of this, but you're not doing that 24/7. You're getting called on to do that whenever.
Yeah. So, you can have, it depends on how you get hired. So you can be a seasonal, which is what I was when I was actually doing it. And that's just for maybe 8 months max.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you can actually be like a career seasonal, which you can actually get on so you'll be on all winter long. And those are harder jobs to get, obviously. So a lot of people are just temps. So you have to, every summer, you have to reapply and get hired every summer.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine you'd have to be like a top of the top to do that as well, or no?
Yeah. Some places are really competitive. I've had people reach out to me saying, hey, I've put in all of these different places and I still haven't heard back from anybody, which is kind of crazy because you can apply anywhere, which is what I absolutely love about this job. And what I recommend for people to do is because you don't have to stay in your hometown. You can go and experience somewhere, the different fuels, different terrain, different people, just for a summer. And then you can come back home. And then you can go somewhere new the next season. And that's just the variety of it. I love that. So yeah, it just depends on what people want to do, but that's one reason that I like it.
So I guess I got to preface this at some point, but you are a wildland firefighter in Colorado Springs.
Mm-hmm.
And what got you into it at the beginning?
So honestly, it was just my best friend. I never thought of ever being a wildland firefighter before in my life. It was right out of high school. My best friend, we did cheerleading together, and she's like, hey, we should go be firefighters. And I was like, no. And she had it in, she knew people. We were from a really small town, so everyone knows everyone. But so she knew the fire soup there. And so yeah, obviously we had to go through the process still. I had to apply and all that stuff, but she is literally the only reason. And she's like, let's just go fight some fire and have fun for the summer. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Other than that, I would never, ever try and get into wildland firefighting, especially right out of high school. I never thought of it. And I never thought that it would be such a passion. And now that I'm teaching people about it, because if I didn't have her, I would have never experienced any of the greatness that came from it. So I want to start with younger people and saying, hey, this is an opportunity, even if it's something you never thought about before. So
is she still in it?
No, she's not. We did it for probably, I think, 4 seasons together. I did a 5th. And then I went into the military.
Okay. So I guess kind of walk the listeners through what's the difference between a wildland fire and a city firefighter. Obviously,
a structure
there's
firefighter.
Big differences.
So wildland fire is you're actually like out doing forest fires. Yes, you can do like urban interface, which is people have houses, in the wilderness, and you just kind of do some structure protection, but you're not actually like going into the buildings and like, burning buildings. Like if something is burning down, it's burned down. Like we're not going in. Structure firefighters, they actually like gear up, suit up, go in. And they're doing obviously the more all city stuff. And then wildland is just forest, wildland urban interface as well.
Because you guys are, I mean, not that you guys don't save people, but you're saving people on a much larger scale. Like,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the sheriff's office and stuff like that, we will work hand in hand with them, and they're going to send out evacuations, and people will help like people kind of like evacuate. People don't have to, but it's recommended. And actually I have heard many of cases where especially like old people, they're like, no, I'm not leaving my house, I'll be fine, and then they get burned over. And so yeah, but anyways, so yes, we do save people, and we do like try and usher people out of the way and like warn them of what's going on. And sometimes, as a crew member, you're kind of just, when I was doing it, you're just taught fire, but we were out like on a rancher's field, and there was tons of cattle, and a lot of them got burnt over. And the rancher coming in real hot because that's their money, right? So, and all of it just passed away. And so we're the ones who are right there putting out the fire. So we're the ones who are right there for them to yell at. And you're kind of like, I'm just here to put out the fire. I don't know. So you kind of have to be prepared for a lot of different situations that get thrown at you. You have to be really professional in those situations. So there's so many life skills that this job will teach you, and just the resilience that you have to have. So there's just so many great things about it that I love. But yes, to go back to your question of yes, you do actually like still help people and save people, but not in the same manner.
Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty huge. I mean, if you stop it before it gets much larger, you guys are like containing. And
yes.
That's the big thing I learned from at least researching in the past like week, is the fact that it's called a trench line. Is that what it's called? What's it called when you basically
you're like digging line, you have a containment line.
That's it. Because I didn't even. It's something that I guess I wouldn't even think about for a forest fire, but basically you're getting rid of any possible fuel like across this line, as you say, just so it just stops dead. It'll just burn out, hopefully.
Yes.
And I mean, I guess that's like the main goal, is basically to stop it in its tracks on every side.
Yes.
But I guess my main question is how you must have much larger numbers if that fire is coming on, like expanding on multiple fronts, right?
Yeah. So typically you have like the heel of the fire, and it'll either be like wind driven or there's fuel driven. So, if there's like more thick fuel over here, the fire is going to actually like go that way. Right. So you have like typically the heel of the fire, but sometimes wind and terrain, it can actually like you can get 2 heads or 3 heads of a fire. So it's all going in all different directions. So you can just imagine, yes, like it can get out of control really, really quickly. So having great leadership and people who can read terrain, like knowing the fire behavior, kind of understanding all the different aspects of it and being able to analyze and say, this is what I think the fire is going to do. And that's a game that I love. I tell my people that I really love for them to practice. When you're driving down the road, just stop and say, I mean, you don't have to stop, but like say, hey, a fire would start right here. What would it do? So factor in the terrain, factor in the fuel, factor in the weather, just kind of like all those different aspects. And what would you think that the fire was going to do? And I really think that puts you in the right mindset of being growing and being a leader in this career field. So I think that's a really great exercise because yeah, like you said, like it can be really crazy. And then once it gets large scale, you're factoring in all these different agencies and everyone has to communicate together. And that's kind of a difficulty that I think a lot of fires have. You would think, hey, by now you would all get it together, but departments have different TTPs and, just different ways that they do things. And so when you come together, people from all over the United States, if it's a large enough incident, have to come together and work together. So it can be difficult sometimes, you can imagine. But when it works, we have an incident command system in place. And so an ICS, I see it. Anyways, yes, incident command system. And so yes, we have that in place. So to try and get everything all together, but it can get crazy.
Yeah. What are the biggest challenges that you've had to face with your time?
Biggest challenges, honestly, during it was a great time. The most difficult that I had, like I said, I came from a background of cheerleading and I was young, so I was in great shape and I love to work out. So that wasn't an issue for me. When you are pushed to your limit of being tired, you're hungry, you're hot, you have to hike up this same hill over and over and over again, and you're sick of it. And the guy next to you keeps doing something weird, and you're like, bro, just enough, when you just kind of hit that wall. So it is such a mental game. You definitely have to break through and push through. It builds grit. So I really think the mental aspect, I don't think people give enough credit to their mental strength and mental toughness that they have to have. Obviously when you're young, you're like, you see firefighters and you're like, I want to go do that cool, badass job. And you're like, I'm in shape, I can do this. And then you get out there and you have all these things come up and you're just like, you see people break kind of. So, it definitely is going to, work and build that mental toughness muscle for you.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my biggest struggle of one, trying to keep up with the guys. And I don't want to make it like a male female thing by any means. I know a lot of people have issues with females out on the line, but there's a lot of guys who don't and who are like, man, I know this chick and she's freaking awesome. She beats out all the guys. And but as a female, the guys on my crew, they were just fitter than I was, and I had to work out twice as hard as they did. And it was what it was. I wasn't upset about it. It is what I had to do it. There was a standard and I had to meet it. And so I had to really push myself to meet that standard. So that was another thing, but it was what it was.
Yeah. So what I wanted to mention earlier, but I wanted to establish a base, but I had read, for some reason, they threw two stories in these books I read in the last month. They're not related books, but they were talking about, one was, maybe it was frame of mind on dropping your gear, the fire. When I think of fire, I guess I don't think of it as fast moving, which obviously I don't know if that's a common misconception, but when I think of fires, I think it slowly moving over. But I guess if the wind's really cooking and like you said, the what's it called? The fuel, I guess if it's super dry and stuff like that, it'll just wreck through.
Yes.
And what they were talking about was wildland firefighters were told to drop their gear and they wouldn't drop their gear. And basically, what's the nice way you were using a phrase, what's it called?
They got burnt over.
That's such a vanilla word to say that. And
yeah,
but it just baffled me. But then it's so weird to let go of your gear, right? And is that one of the stories they tell? Basically, they train you, if you get to this point, drop your gear.
Yes.
Because you're going up, like you said, you're running up a hill. And I mean, if you're not going to outrun the fire, you're not going to be able to fight any more fires.
Right. But once you're in the mindset there, say you've been out there for days and you have this stretch of line that's your piece of line, you've been assigned this and the area and you've been working it forever. and you're like, hey, we have our safety zones, we have our escape routes established, like we're good. Something happens really quickly and it kind of catches you off guard. You're just in the mindset of like, you're just working and doing your thing, and your gear is like your lifeline, right? So you don't want to get rid of it. And what if you ditch it and you didn't really need to, or I don't know, you could just like put yourself in that situation. But I guess it's better to deploy than not. But really, I was never in a situation where like deployment was a thing that we needed to ever do.
Also, I
So
think both of these instances I'm talking about, they didn't probably have the same information
yeah.
that there is today. Because I was going to mention, like, I saw that drone. I wouldn't imagine, I why not use drones like all
Oh,
the
right.
time?
Oh my gosh, right? I think that the technology, like oh my gosh, the technology could save so many people and really help with the fire behavior and predicting what's going to happen. And I really think that could save up a lot of land being burnt up, a lot of resources, and that's really going to help people like decrease, like just that load that they have on them, especially if it's a busy summer. So yes, I think drones. Yes.
And even the communication. I mean, you could,
Oh yeah.
like,
Yes.
nowadays, it's probably point to point where you guys, I mean, you probably even have, I mean, look at iPhones nowadays. The last one that came out has satellite, like, you don't even need to have AT&T or Verizon. They've hooked it up wherever you are, you can call. So I would
Yes.
imagine your communication back and forth isn't really, there's no loss.
Yeah. No, and that's another thing too, is like many years ago, it was like you had to use repeaters. So if you're on opposite side of the mountains, you have to use a repeater, and sometimes it's broken and all that jazz. And so, if that goes down, then communication's down. You have to rely on people going back and forth. And it's just like you said, I saw a graph or a thing where they had like a blimp up in the sky, and that was going to be like the repeater for the whole fire or whatever. Like that's just it's going to save so much and just help so much with communication, like you said. So yes, I think the technology, I know I read an article, someone sent me an article about I think it was Boeing is going to start doing they're really investing in wildland firefighting. So I was like, I want to work for them because that would be awesome. They're going to do like fire analysis. Like I think that would be amazing. I think that is so cool. So I think there's a lot of jobs out there that are going to be created. And I really think it's going to really help the wildland firefighting community because it definitely needs it. Like we need an upgrade. It's been archaic a little bit. It's like time to get up with the times, but it costs so much money, right? So I think once the initial like dump all this money in, I think a lot of the money that goes actually to the fires is going to kind of, hopefully reduce that. So
Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that because now that you say the word archaic,
mhm.
when you guys are digging that line, I'm like, I'm just thinking like exactly like you said with Boeing, but I was thinking like Caterpillar or you
Right.
just get something out there, like not even why am I saying that? I'm thinking farm equipment. You get an ox, you get dig a huge trench, right?
Uh-huh.
Isn't that cutting it off, making it super, and then you're watering it down. So I
Yep.
can't see why there probably is something like that, but it's probably about how do we deploy it there? How do we deploy it in the middle of nowhere
Right.
where there's no roads, there's no way to get it there, and there's no way a helicopter can bring it there. So you're
Right.
thinking
So the
like,
logistics of it. Yeah. I mean, we do have dozers. We do have dozer operators. And so sometimes I've seen a dozer operator do some crazy stuff. They're on like a hill like this and they're just like cutting line and they do some pretty crazy stuff. I saw a dozer went under a telephone pole or telephone wire and it arced to the dozer. It was so crazy. So
was
yeah,
the
I
was
mean
the
there are
guy okay?
dozers who do get out there and like dig this huge line, which is so awesome. And they do it so much quicker than, a 20-man crew can do.
Yeah. Well, I could definitely imagine like a small boy, like something maybe the size of like a forklift getting there somehow.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's still gonna be like tons.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's
gonna
still
take time,
gonna.
but they do load it up on like a flatbed and get it out there. So when I mean, if you're like talking about a big fire, a big incident, Yeah, they do order those. But again, that's another resource that you have to order and time to get there. And
Yeah.
so it's just the logistics of it, you know?
But you're completely right on the data charts. Like I would imagine if you worked with like the national, like NOAA, like the weather system, and
Mm-hmm.
you projected like the dry areas, how long they've been dry for, you
Yes.
calculated the wind rate. I mean, these are all things that probably are like they're already charted. It's just a
Yes.
matter of putting all the data together and then saying, okay, this is exactly where we want the line to stop,
Mm-hmm.
or even predicting where it would be. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. So weather's a really big factor. We do have, like weather teams that are out there and you get weather updates. Sometimes you get them every hour. People actually get on the radio and say, this is what the weather is. So people know. You'll read the weather, expected weather at briefing. They'll brief it to everyone. So they do really emphasize weather to everyone, making sure everyone knows it. But yeah, I think because I remember when I was doing it, which is, a few years ago now, we would spin weather. Like it was just so crazy. It's just like I said, archaic. Now you can have like the kestrels and they can just like automatically, but nope, I would just sit out there and just spin weather. And then you'd find the dry bulb and the wet bulb and you have to do the math. And so it's just, I love to see the technology because I know where I came from. And so it's just, it's great.
that is funny.
You can be out in the middle of nowhere and have zero service. Like you can't reach anybody. Nothing works because you can go to some really remote places. And it's really odd. Like you can go and you're like, you're not really that far from town, but it would be difficult to find service. So, yeah. So I think it's definitely come a long way since I've been doing it.
And you're in Colorado Springs, but how many different states have you done besides Colorado?
So I was doing fire out of Idaho.
Okay.
That's where I'm from. And then I did get onto a like a national fire. So we went down to Arizona. I did some in New Mexico, Utah. I really wanted to make it to California. The fire behavior out there, I think, is just something else. And I never made it, unfortunately. So I've just done those areas. We went into Montana a little bit. So just kind of like around Idaho and then down south for a national fire.
Okay. Well, that's a lot. I mean,
And that's another thing about firefighting. Like you can go different places, see different fuels, different terrains, even, being stationed at the station that you're from, your hometown. I mean, so, you get some really cool opportunities that I think is really good for young people, like, especially like right out of high school or even college students. I really promote it for that like gap because, that's what I did. I did, fire for the summer as a temp. And then I would go to college for like my regular college for the fall and spring, and then have the summer just rocking and rolling and just working as hard as I could, as long as I could. So, to make as much money as you can and then, be done for the winter.
Getting paid to work out basically, right?
Oh yeah. And camp and see beautiful places and see some awesome people. And, you definitely, a lot of people say embrace the suck. There are definitely some sucky moments, but but you're doing it together and it's just great.
It's, what do they call that? Shared trauma, basically.
Yes.
Well, that's a bad way to phrase it because
yes,
there's actual trauma, but like you always make good friends when you're like, when you have a really bad boss or like you have a really bad teacher or you're, I don't know, doing a marathon, you have somebody you're doing it with. It's always like, we've been through it.
Yes.
It's like your World War II buddies. Like you remember them like for life. Not that I would know what that is whatsoever. But since you've been through it, what do you think are some of the big qualities that someone needs to have to kind of make it through? And not just, like you said, be there day one.
Yeah. I did a video on this on YouTube because I think it's important for people to go into it kind of knowing some of the expectations. But the number one thing that I think people need to have is integrity because you're part of a crew. And so you being trustworthy and, that's important because I'm not going to go out. Everyone's life is on the line when you go out. Yes, you try and make it as safe as possible, but it is an inherently dangerous job. And so people's life art can be on the line, and you have to be able to trust the person to your left and to the right of you. So I think having integrity, being a trustworthy individual, is really important. And then another one that I think that you need to have is, obviously, you have to be adaptable. There's lots of things that are going to come your way and be thrown at you. And if you're a very rigid person and you're not able to kind of step back and kind of reassess, you're going to have a difficult time. Not saying that you can't do it. You're just going to have to work on it. But I think that will serve you well is being more adaptable. Obviously, you're going to have some perseverance. There's going to be, not every moment is crazy. You're going to have some very mundane moments where you're just sitting and waiting for a fire. It could be like, you're like on week 2 and you're like, bro, I want to go out on a fire. Just send me out. And you've just been sitting at the station, just itching to get out. So there's definitely mundane moments, but you're definitely going to have to push through once you're out on fires. For, say, you're on day 20 of a 21 roll and you're like ready to go home. You're going to have to push through when you're climbing up that same stupid hill over and over again. Definitely have that perseverance. And then I think another one is that you have to be a responsible person. You taking accountability for your actions and being someone who's able to say, hey, I messed up, is really important. One, it's a teaching lesson for those around you, saying, hey, it's okay for us to mess up as long as we own up to it and we learn from it and we're better next time. So I think just being a responsible person. So I know those are it's just like 4 of them, but I think those are the top ones for sure that someone needs to go in to it kind of having.
Yeah, I definitely agree with this goes for anything, just in general life, just knowing your mistakes. I think I was just talking to somebody else last week, and I was so amazed because they were just calling out all their past stuff, and I've never heard someone actually calling it out, that and saying, yeah, I had messed up, and I was just like, man, I just think that a lot. I never actually say it out loud.
I mean, it takes a big person. So yeah, there's lots of egos in wildland firefighting. You know, people are coming in with that hero mentality, in a good way too. You know what I'm saying? But so sometimes people have a difficult time owning up to their mistakes, but I think that's a good quality that you should have.
What's something that you've picked up over the years that kind of, I guess, shaped you since when you started to now?
Oh man. I think there's all kinds of stuff. I think the job in general, just pushing you out of the boundaries that you have set for yourself. Because you're like, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I can do, but this job is going to stretch you. And so I think that that's really cool. So I just think really the job in general, the people that I have met, my experience, the people have been so amazing in guiding you and mentoring you and really helping you. Again, you're all a part of a team. I know a lot of people, not a lot, but I've definitely heard other people say they have not that experience, and that really makes me very sad. You know, I just think of firefighters as like a team of heroes coming in to save everybody, and just like, you know, and so and that really makes me sad when I have a person to my left or to my right who's not feeling that. But yeah, so I really do think it's the job. There's so many different experiences that you can get with this job. And so, yeah, it's definitely going to make you grow and expand yourself for sure.
Or else, basically.
Yeah.
We've gotten to the last question.
Okay.
What is something that your parents did growing up that you'd like to pass on to the next generation? And the other side, what's something that you would want to do new or differently that your parents did?
My parents definitely instilled, you don't lie. And oh, what was the other one? Oh, I'm just gonna say that one. You don't lie. So my parents definitely told me don't lie. And that always really stuck with me. So that's what I think, being able to own up to your mistakes and like really talk that out. I really think that has really set in with me, telling the truth, being open and honest about your mistakes. So yeah, that's the first one. And then what was the other question?
What's something new that you try or do differently that your parents did?
So I'm trying with my children. I know gentle parenting is just like it's a sensitive topic for a lot of people, but I'm trying to be more, I'm going to listen to your feelings or like take your feelings into account. Because before it's just like kind of my parents are just like,
Most parents
be
at that
quiet
age.
and you're done. And that's it. So I'm really trying to be more patient, and you tell me how you feel. Explain to me how you're feeling. So that's a little difficult for me because that is definitely not how I was raised. So I'm trying that. I think it's working. It's definitely a work in progress. But yeah, so it's parenting, man. It is a whole new world. It is rough. And I know people say that until you are in it and experiencing it, you don't know. You have no idea. And because before people would tell me, oh, parenting is hard, and you're just like, yeah, I'm young, I'm not doing that, whatever. And then you get into it and you're like, bro, they were right.
But but it's so funny because I obviously I didn't do that. My parents, both of my parents are from big families, and
Mm.
like they had like 7 kids. Like nowadays, if you have 7 kids, that's a reality show.
Yes.
That's not like real life. Like having 7 kids back then was just like, why not have 7 more? Like
Right.
it was
Yep.
financially, like if anything, you gained money because these kids were working the field or they
Yes.
were like having jobs at like 8 years old. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, like it's completely different because these kids they need to learn how to swim when they're 2 years old. It's not like the kids in that. I really have to look at that show, but the Netflix show everyone tells me about it is like the kids who run errands in Japan,
Oh,
and
I have
like,
no
have you
idea.
seen? Oh, you should check it out, or I
Okay.
should check it out too. But basically, there's these like 3 to 4 year old children who are like running errands, dropping off stuff, picking stuff up from the market, and
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
this is what like 1952 was in
Yes.
America. People were laboring their children, where nowadays like they're watching Coco Melon or Bluey or like all the above.
Yes. Yes.
I blame iPads. That's the main issue.
Yes. 100%. I am guilty. I have to say I am guilty of the iPad.
Yeah, me too. I mean, sometimes it's you talk about saying your feelings, but
Hmm.
it's the exact mirror. Mommy and daddy are feeling frustrated and they need a break. Like we get frustrated too.
Yes.
Like I tell my son, like, take a breath. And then I gotta tell myself and my wife sometimes, take a breath. But I think that's good though. I mean, obviously you don't want to see your parents upset or stuff like that, but I
Right.
mean, to understand, I think that's the biggest thing, to understand that your parents make mistakes and they
Yes.
get frustrated.
Yes. And modeling that, because like you said, my dad, stoic, nothing would phase him. He was just kind of like always, I don't know, just stoic, no emotion, just to the point. And so I want to have, I'm definitely a more lively, emotional person. So I definitely want to, instill that more of like, I'm a real person too. I have feelings too. I feel the same things you feel sometimes. So yeah.
That's great. Is is there anything you want to promote? Get on your soapbox?
So I do have a website that I have created for people. I just try and make resources that I think will help new people getting into wildland firefighting. I know it's can be really difficult to find information on wildland firefighting, especially if you're a new person trying to get into it. So I just wanted to that's why I created the YouTube channel, to help people just go give my experience of this is what I did, this is what happened, so people can kind of like have an idea. And then so I do have a website that I try and create some resources for people to help them get going. I am in the process of creating a rucking course. I really love rucking. One, it's functional fitness for wildland firefighters. Like that's your job, basically. So why not, practice like you play? So I think that is a key of it, but then also I'm in the military and I ruck in the military. So kind of combining the two. And I also want to open it up to other people of just like, it's not just for firefighters and it's not just for military people. Like you can add rucking into your workouts and get a really great workout. I'm also like I said, a mom, right? So I love fitness. I used to be in the gym 6 days a week and just loved it for multiple hours. Now, not at all. And one, I've had a couple of kids, so I cannot be jumping around and running like I used to. So rucking is a really great, amazing option for me. Plus I get to spend time with my kids out for a walk already. I get to put on a pack, so I get my workout in at the same time. So I just really think for my whole world, kind of combining that one thing, it really brings everything together. So if I'm enjoying it so much, I want to create a place for maybe other people where it can help them too. So I'm in the process of doing that. But yeah, so those are just the couple of things that I have.
That's awesome. Yeah. What is actually rucking? I don't.
So rucking is literally just walking with weight. You throw a backpack on with some weight in. That's it.
Okay.
Super simple, super easy. Anybody can do it. I did a YouTube video on it the other day, and I had a 71-year-old man comment and saying, "Hey, I'm 71. I just started doing this and I really love it. I'm almost at 100 miles." I was like,
Wow.
Bro, get it.
That's awesome.
So, like I said, anyone can do it. And I love the fact that you can do it with your kids, with your dog. You can do it by yourself, if you want to have that mental time by yourself, and get a really great workout in at the same time. And it's low impact. So there's just like so many benefits. Also, it's going to build up your resilience, your mental toughness, all that kind of stuff. So I just kind of think it's a really great functional fitness one for firefighters, but anyone can do it. And you can just walk out your front door. Like you don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to go to a trailhead. I mean, obviously you can if you want to, but it's just super accessible. So.
No, that's awesome. I love little things like that, especially for a person like me whose brain goes everywhere. Like he needs something set for a set amount of time. This is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
But I want to be able to do 2 other things while I'm doing
right?
it. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what I love about it as well. You can be listening to a podcast, or you could be, coming up with ideas for stuff, or you can be doing it stress relief of just like working out a problem in your mind. There's just so many things. There's so many things that I love.
It's awesome. But yeah, thank you very much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you reaching out to me and, asking me to be on your show. So, hopefully I did wildland firefighting justice. I know there's amazing, amazing people out in the community. So thank you for reaching out to me and interviewing me, because I know there's tons amazing other people out there. So thank you.
No problem.
If you like this week's episode of People More Interesting Than Me, please follow me on Apple Podcasts so you won't miss out on more episodes like these.